And hello, once again, this is Ted Hicks from Late Night Parents. Ways to find the show, latenightparents.com, or you can find us on Twitter and Facebook by typing in Late Night Parents. Before we get started, we want to send our thoughts and prayers out to those in London, also Manchester, those folks that were affected by the terrorist attacks. You got to keep pressing on. You can't be afraid. We're going to just leave it there. Yep. But in the studio, we have the fabulous Richie Valdez.
Steady Ted.
What's up, man?
I'm fabulous now. I know I am fabulous. I'm fabulous because our co-host is absent again.
She's absent. I don't know why she's absent.
I'm not feeling the love anymore.
I think she's gone Hollywood.
I think so. We're just too small for her now.
That's okay. That's okay. Want to give a big shout out to our affiliates. And once again, as we broadcast from West Babylon, New York, I want to say hello to our friends at WGBB. We'll start right there. And to those who are listening live and those who are listening in the U.S. and abroad, we're up to 16 affiliates. 16 It happened overnight. I'm not sure what happened, but I keep, whenever I try to advertise the show, I put your smiling face out there, and they're like, oh my goodness.
Otherwise, we'd have like 25 if you didn't do that. That's what you're trying to tell me.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, we got a bunch of folks that we do want to thank. That play the show all during the week. Best ways to find the show, if you go to latenightparents.com and click on the stations tab. If you do that. But we want to send a big shout out to our friend, my buddy Don at WRAQ, upstate New York.
What's up, Don?
92.7. So, Rich, it's another week.
Yep.
Fortunately for you, but unfortunately for me, I didn't get a chance to work with you this week because you were on vacation.
I took some days.
All right.
And relaxed as much as I could.
That's good.
Enjoyed the time off.
That's good.
No complaints. I'm rejuvenated and refreshed.
You were greatly missed.
You were there.
Greatly
I wasn't missed. You were there
at work. And that's the best thing about it. You hear about stories like Mike and the Mad Dog. You hear about Mike and Mike. But yes, Rich and I do work together. We worked together for many, many years. And no, there's no drama. There's no issues.
Nope.
There's no he said, she said.
We said.
And that's that. It's just one story. It's just like, okay, hey, here's what happened, and you're not going to like it, and that's that. But besides the point, there's a lot of things happening. We got two guests tonight, two of my buddies and soon to be your buddies.
All right.
Mr. Todd Vandenberg from Miami, Florida, who's the host of Cinema Savants.
I have seen the name on many a message.
Yes.
And I've been following them for a while.
It's a great show. Yep. Imagine the updated version of Siskel and Ebert.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say that. So he's going to join us momentarily at 30 minutes past the hour. Mr. Lee Vowell, CEO extraordinaire, editor-in-chief of 12th Man Rising. And he lives in Smashville, Tennessee. Smashville, Tennessee.
Okay.
For hockey fans.
Okay.
The Nashville Predators are, fighting for their lives in the Stanley Cup.
Yep.
Some people say Nashville. Those
Some
folks out there say
Smashville.
So, a couple of big shout-outs to Dr. Michele with her phased rollout today.
Book signing.
Book party.
The book is official. She's got it out there.
Physical copies. And also digital copies.
Yes.
Very, very proud of her.
Available on Amazon.
So. And off her website, AskDrMichele.com.
There you go.
Okay.
So please go there, get the book. It's good reading, good life information. It's a short read. It's worth it.
And before we bring on Mr. Todd Vandenberg in the studio, my brother-in-law, Gary, is in the building. Came here to see what goes on every Sunday at 7, Sundays at 7 during the live show.
All right. Welcome, Gary. Welcome.
And
Gary's giving us a wave. Don't be afraid. If you want to say hi on the mic, it's all right. We'll bite. But that's good.
Here from North Carolina.
North Carolina. All right. Good.
And
welcome.
For the folks that listened to Barbershop Sports years ago, he is the infamous Gary from Greensboro. There you go. That's a spoiler.
Now I know who you are even more.
That's a spoiler alert. But in the queue from Miami, Florida, the home of the Miami Marlins, we have none other than Mr. Todd Vandenberg. Todd, how you doing?
That needed lead-in music.
I know it did. Todd, what's going on?
I can't beatbox, so I won't be doing my own. I'll say that. I will say that my next book I will be reading will be Mentally Fit, Physically Strong, The Fit Doc's Guide to Real Life, and it's only $7 on Kindle. So
awesome!
Honestly, I will be picking that up. So
woo. Awesome!
Thank you.
Awesome. So, Mr. Vandenberg,
yes, sir.
The show we love, the show I love, is Cinema Savants.
You're the one.
I am the one of the 1 billion listeners across this globe that love the show. I gotta tell you, before we get into talking about the media and talking about the business behind movie productions and everything else like that, question to you is, who had a worse week, Kathy Griffin or Bill Mahr?
Kathy, I think, because Bill has established himself as a kind of an idiot and saying reprehensible things, so it's a little more expected for him. Plus, I did mean to introduce myself as the House Caucasian, and I failed to do that, so I apologize. Not to excuse what Mahr said, but it's different what he said, because it was a joke, and it was a self-referential joke. Right. It was absolutely wrong, and he apologized, as he should have. But there's a difference between what he said, calling himself a House person, and Kathy Griffin holding up a representation of a decapitated and bloody head of the president. Right. Not a good career move.
No.
Granted, it's certainly nothing worse than what several conservative icons have done. Mr. Ted Nugent, for example.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And a lot of people don't seem to see that. But the thing is, you don't stoop to the level of people that you find reprehensible. That makes no sense. And I don't care about her whining and crying about how they've ruined her life and blah, blah, blah. It's like, you got to be stronger and smarter than that. And if her career is done, I don't think her career is done by any means. But to me, it's no loss, because a D-list celebrity, absolutely. I've never found her funny. So in a way, I'm kind of glad it was her, because it's no loss to the entertainment industry. CNN fired her. Is anybody going to notice?
Not
Really?
at all.
Right.
So who cares? It was stupid of her to do, absolutely stupid. But I'm glad it wasn't someone who's relatively important, because she is not. Mahr, completely stupid, but it was a different level. And I'm already disgusted with him with his constant Islamophobia, so he has a lot of issues. This is just the latest for him. So hers is that she's not funny. That's her main issue. So other than that, they both did really stupid things. But I think for her it's worse, because it was more deliberate and more intentionally had ill intent behind it, whereas Mahr's was just not thought out at all,
right,
and a stupid thing to say. But I don't think he had any evil intent behind it, whereas Griffin,
a little bit.
There's nothing you can say about putting up a bloody mask of the president and saying, "Ha, this is funny." No, it's not. I mean, we get what you're saying, but not the best way to say it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. His was more self-referential versus hers outright malicious, if you will. So let me ask you, you're the media man. You're the cinema man. Have you seen Wonder Woman?
I have seen Wonder Woman.
Can you give us the non-spoiler review?
A non-spoiler review. Non-spoiler review. Rob and I talk about, of course, DC films a lot because DC films come up. And I have not enjoyed a DC live-action film, let me make that clear, a live-action film, really, since The Dark Knight Rises.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you.
Man of Steel, I thought was okay, but it made some terrible mistakes with the character of Superman. I mean, for one thing, I'm sorry, if you haven't seen Man of Steel by now, this is a spoiler, so don't listen for 10 seconds. He lets his father die.
Right.
Superman doesn't do that.
Right.
Ever.
No.
That's ridiculous. So, right there, the movie went off the rails for me. It got worse with Batman v Superman with all the problems, and then Suicide Squad is just kind of Wonder Woman, oh my gosh, they remembered what comic book movies are supposed to be. They're supposed to be fun, they're supposed to be heroic, they're supposed to be inspiring. Absolutely. Wonder Woman is better than a lot of the Marvel movies. Forget the DC movies that have been disappointments. Wonder Woman is an excellent film, and I'm so happy to finally say I enjoyed a DC movie because I was getting tired of dragging Warner Brothers through the mud. Not that they cared, but it's been 10 years since there's been a good Warner Brothers comic book film, and what a movie.
Okay.
Really, really good. And Gal Gadot is terrific in the role. I mean, people were raving about her in Batman v Superman. I'm thinking, how can you tell? She has like 6 lines.
Right.
She didn't really have anything to do in the movie. She can act. She's excellent in this film. Great action sequences in the movie, great supporting cast. Just, people have seen, I'm sure, that it's in the 90s for both critical reviews and user reviews, and absolutely deserving. It's just a really, really good movie. I mean, first DC movie I'm going to go see twice at the theater, really, since The Dark Knight.
Okay.
Can't recommend it enough.
All right. Only because of that glowing review will I see it in the theaters, because I was going to give it a total pass. Because I agree also on DC movies, and being fair, I am not a DC fan anyway. I'm Marvel all the way. But, I agreed, Dark Knight Rises, fantastic film. Batman v Superman, Wonder Woman didn't even need to be in the movie, really. And really, the movie didn't need to exist, really, but that's a whole other subject. But
that's for sure.
I will go on what you've said.
I do want to mention something about the director, though, Patty Jenkins.
Yep.
A lot has been made that, she's setting box office records for a film directed by a woman. It's like, well, the bar's kind of low because they just don't get many opportunities.
That's true.
And I apologize if I go kind of long with this, but she directed Monster, 2003.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Huge critical hit. That's the film that Charlize Theron won her Oscar for, portraying the serial killer.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Well-deserved Oscar.
And did well at the box office. I mean, $60 million worldwide, that's not huge, but it only cost $8 million to make.
Right.
That's making a big, big profit.
That is.
So Hollywood took a look at that and all the critical response she got and the love, and they said, okay, we'll let you direct one TV episode next year. And it'll be a couple more years. You'll get to direct a couple episodes of Entourage.
Mm.
And it kept on going like that for her. Wonder Woman is the first film she has directed since Monster.
Okay.
Now tell me the name of the male director that directs a movie that brings in almost 10 times as much as it costs to make, got critical raves, everybody knows about the movie, and all they can do is get TV work.
It doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen.
This is the problem, not just with Hollywood, but with our society in general. So, and what really bothers me is I would not be a bit surprised if Patty Jenkins doesn't get another big gig, because they're going to look at it and they say, oh, Wonder Woman was built in. I mean, she had a built-in audience since the 40s, to which I say, yeah, and remember how well The Phantom did? And The Shadow? And The Lone Ranger?
Right.
It's like, no, wrong. Patty Jenkins made this movie happen. So she needs to be a star director. She probably won't get that because, wrong gender, so sorry. But great movie, go see it.
Okay.
So,
all right,
off the soapbox.
No.
On to fun things.
That's all right, thank you. Twisting up a little bit, talking about Netflix, do you agree that for the NFL in 2020-21, do you think that Netflix and Google and Facebook and Amazon are all going to grab the licensing off the primary networks?
I'm afraid so, yeah. And I say afraid so because that's just how things are trending. There's just not much left on broadcast TV anymore. And granted, most people at this point have access to either cable or one of the services. Mm-hmm. But it does scare me. For instance, if it's Netflix, that would be great for Netflix. But okay, there's another $10 a month. People are going to have to plop down out of their budget, and these aren't easy times for anybody.
Right.
That's what I would prefer it to be on broadcast for that reason. But I have no doubt that the premise is right. That one of those, and probably it would be split. One of these deals where Amazon gets the AFC, Netflix gets the NFC, and the Sunday night games go to Hulu, and just one of these really fragmented, awful things. In which case, everyone will have to subscribe to every service, which would be the worst possible scenario.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
And I wouldn't be a bit surprised if that happens.
Okay. All right.
So, Todd, with the question that came up about the NFL and the licensing and everything else like that, if there are no budgets and Google, Facebook, Amazon, and I would say Netflix doesn't have any budgets at all, why is Netflix canceling shows, i.e. The Get Down, Marco Polo, and Sense8?
Yeah, they've got to have budgets, though. I mean, I know that's been the general approach that they've had, but realistically, they have to have the budgets because they have a limited number of subscribers coming in. I mean, we know that. It's not like they have unlimited subscribers, so they have a limited pool of money. Adam Sandler gets about 30% of it, apparently, on Netflix. But other than that, they've got to start canceling shows that they see as underperforming. Of course, they don't release ratings, so who knows? They've canceled 6 shows, and they did not renew a couple others, which didn't go under the cancellation thing, which is kind of an interesting way to put it. But Bloodline is one of those that will not be continued past that.
Right.
But there are so many shows. I was just flipping through. There are at least 60 original series that they still have going on. 60. I mean, that's just incredible. Those are series. Those are not standalone movies like War Machine that I just watched this afternoon, actually, which was pretty good. So they are still investing an ungodly amount of money in these things. And it makes sense that at some point you got to cut why would you continue to produce shows that people aren't watching as much as they were? I mean, once they feel, it's run its course, well, then cut it. It's insane to me that they weren't doing that before.
So is it safe to say that you're telling me, or you're telling us, that Netflix is just going to become House of Cards, Orange is the New Black, and Stranger Things? And if you aren't one of those 3, powerful shows, should you be nervous?
No, it's going to be Chelsea and Bill Nye Saves the World, and Making a Murderer, and The Keepers, and gosh, what are some shows I've never even heard of? Yeah. That'll be they've got like 30 kids shows alone. It's just insane. Master of None, that's an extremely popular show that's renewed. Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. I mean, they've got tons of shows on there. The powerhouses, they're going to be on there as long as the producers want to keep making them. And it's a shame that the Get Down didn't find its audience. But, I mean, here's the thing. Great things, great shows sometimes don't find their audience. Rob and I were talking about this on our show earlier today, and we were talking about, The Rock has come out and complained about Rotten Tomatoes. And the bad critics' reviews ruined the box office, and Brett Ratner echoed that, and some other studio heads have echoed that. And our take was, don't make bad things, and people will probably watch them. I mean, the opposite of that would be great critical response and great user reviews would then mean, people are going to go see it. And I'll just bring up 2 shows. Kubo and the Two Strings, best animated film that came out last year. You wouldn't know it because nobody saw it.
Right.
Just under 70 million worldwide box office.
Wow.
Basically, nobody saw it. It cost $60 million to make, so it lost money. The user reviews on Metacritic, 8.1. The critical score is 84%. Okay, nobody listened to that. Nobody cared. They didn't go see it. Alien Covenant is over 70% on Rotten Tomatoes, tanking awfully at the box office. No, it's not because critical response is out there and bad critic reviews bury movies. Bad movies bury themselves.
Right.
So, and it translates to Netflix, and again, we don't know because they won't release their viewer numbers. But you have to think that, well, for whatever reason, no matter how good Sense8 was, no matter how good The Get Down was, not enough people were watching it, and they said, let's cut our losses, let's try something new and different. So, and to their credit, Netflix tries a lot of things that are way out there, like the OA, like Black Mirror, like Sense8, and like The Get Down, and sometimes it works, and I guess sometimes it doesn't. So, it's unfortunate, but if it wasn't for Netflix, would those shows have been on ABC? Right. We wouldn't have seen the show anyway.
Correct.
So at least Netflix took a chance on those shows. So I give them credit for that.
Hey, before we get you on out of here, what's your thoughts on the upcoming Mummy and the monster universe? Kind of, mirroring the Marvel and DC universe. Does it have a chance?
It has a chance. Initially, I thought, oh my gosh, this is terrible, because the first two previews for The Mummy, it was all action-driven. Mm-hmm. And I get that, because action movies make more money than horror movies. I mean, just look at the box office, and it is a business, and I understand that. The last set of previews do emphasize the horror aspect. I mean, there's even the behind-the-scenes preview to the show, and the director's talking about, this is, we're paying homage to the fact that these are horror films, and they have to be terrifying and stuff. And so it's an action horror film along the line of, say, Aliens. If they manage to pull it off, no way to know until the movie actually comes out. But if they manage to pull it off, then yeah, I think it'll work. Tom Cruise is generally bankable. Mm-hmm. It's got a good cast. The clips that finally show something that's actually scary actually looks really good. I like the fact that they're tying it all in. Russell Crowe is an important figure, I'll just say that, in these films. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
So hopefully, I would love for them to pull it off. I'm looking forward to it. It's just like the DC films. I hated going on the show and talking about, here's another lousy DC film, and I'm so disgusted with it because the expectations are way up here, and here's their performance down here. So it would be awesome if they pull this off. They just tried The Wolfman just a few years ago. It wasn't officially part of this dark universe, but it wasn't good. So they don't exactly have a great track record. I'm hoping that they will pull it off, because who doesn't want to be entertained? That's the whole point.
Sure.
Why would you root against it? So yeah, I hope it works really well. I hope it's a big hit. I'm really dying for the Creature of the Black Lagoon remake. I have no idea when it's coming, but that's the one I want to see.
Is that in the works?
That is part of the group. It actually is part of the group,
okay.
Along with Bride of Frankenstein and Wolfman and Dracula and on and on and on. And The Invisible Man, which Johnny Depp is apparently in talks to do that. So I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But if he decides to act, yeah, I'm all for it. If he decides to mug for the camera, we won't see him anyway, so that works. Anyway, yes, I'm looking forward to all of it.
Then one final question for you. All-important question.
All important.
What are you binge-watching right now?
What am I binge-watching? I just finished The Keepers, which is on Netflix, which is very, very good. As I spoke with Ted, just be prepared for an ending other than what you might expect. I'll just say that. The Keepers is about an investigation of the murder of a nun in Baltimore many years ago. But it is very compelling, very good. So I just finished Keepers, and I don't know, in honor of it being canceled, I might watch Sense8. That might be the next thing I binge, because why not?
Right.
Why not root for the lost causes?
Okay, thank you. Sounds good.
All right, Todd. Best ways to find you, Todd.
Oh, my home phone is no. Cinema Savants on the Happy Hour Network. And at some point, we all may get the gang together again and do a baseball show. Who knows about that? But the Unreal Todd, Twitter, cinemasavants.com. And that's how you find the little things that I am productive at.
Gotcha. Todd, one, thank you so much for taking the time out this show to speak with us.
So happy to be on with you guys, and so happy that I did not eat into the boss's time, because I would be fired if I'd done that. So
that is true.
Thanks for keeping it on the rails.
All right. Thanks again, Todd.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us.
All right, bye-bye.
Take care.
So that was pretty much in depth.
Yeah, that was true. All right. See, even DC folks not liking DC movies.
No, I'm there. I did not appreciate Suicide Squad too much.
Haven't seen it.
The second time, if you see, and I've said this to you 100 times, probably not on the show, if you see the 3-hour uncut version of B versus S,
you've mentioned that before,
you will appreciate it much more than the 2.5 hour version.
Is it on the Blu-ray?
It's on the Blu-ray. It's on the Blu-ray, but you got to invest 3 hours.
I'm okay with that. You know, maybe I'll go for it. I'll give it a shot because I didn't even buy it.
Oh, okay.
So all right. I'll give it a whirl on Ted's recommendation.
Well, I mean, I would say
he's backpedaling now. You hear that, right, Gary? He's
prior to watching that, I mean, if you're weighing, hey, watching House of Cards season 5 versus B versus S,
it's House of Cards.
It's House of Cards. But no, I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was pretty good, the 3-hour version, and it just made sense because there were so many gaps. Because I think we saw it at the premiere.
Yes.
And
we came away saying, "What the heck?
What in the world?
What are these cutscenes even referencing?" You knew more about it than I did, so you were like, "Well, these might be for this, that, and the other."
Yes,
but Martha. Okay, we're friends.
Right. And that the fact that the post-credit scenes are in the middle of the movie,
right? Which I just didn't get it.
Which totally made no sense at all.
And something else movie related though.
Go ahead.
I finally saw Logan.
You finally saw Logan?
I bought it when it came out, and I watched it Monday or Tuesday. Enjoyed it.
Okay.
Enjoyed it. And you only gave away that little bit, which was okay.
Yes.
Not the other bit.
Yes.
It's even though it's released, I won't give it away. Okay. There. That was good.
It was pretty good. It was a pretty good movie.
It was.
You know, for it to be the end of the trilogy,
yes,
they did it almost right. There was still, I did have a problem with a couple of scenes.
Okay, yeah. And it still actually leaves room for more since it does take place in the future. Right. We could fill a few years if we wanted to.
And Todd just texted me. He said, "You can't fix Martha."
Thank you, Todd. So correct, are you? We're friends now.
But you know, I think we spend time most of the shows talking tech.
Yep.
Education.
Some.
Have a few experts. Relationships. Health, wellness.
Cars once in a while.
Cars.
Automotive. A little of everything.
Home improvement.
Yes.
We are about 90% done with the kitchen renovation project in the Hicks household.
A month later? No, 3 weeks later.
5 weeks later. Backsplash is left to be installed.
Okay.
And that's it. It's
Gary,
over.
I want to see Ted's credit card bill for all the times he's going out to eat for the last 5 weeks.
Yeah, it's a mess. It's a mess. So, just a couple other things we want to get into. In the queue, we have Lee Vowell, who is editor-in-chief of 12th Man Rising, and also the 12th Man Rising radio show, which is the sanctioned show on fansided.com for Seahawks. All Seahawks information. Because I want to get at Lee real quickly about the Colin Kaepernick. You know, there was so much talk about Kaepernick and the Seahawks and this and that. And I said, well, you know what? Possibly it could be a fit. Because you have Pete Carroll, who's, you know, kind of open to different ideas and suggestions and everything else like that. But it didn't work. It didn't happen.
Fell through.
So,
well, we will ask
Yes.
Lee, because you think it fell through because of money?
I don't know.
Personalities?
I don't know.
The politics of it all?
The politics is so heavy that people aren't touching him.
Right.
They aren't touching him. But in the queue, we have none other than the CEO of the Happy Hour Network and editor-in-chief of 12th Man Rising and co-host of the 12th Man Rising radio show, which is the sponsored Seahawk show for Fansided. Lee, how you doing?
I'm doing well, sir. Thank you for having me on.
Welcome, Lee. Thanks for joining us.
Pleasure, Lee. It's a pleasure. Before we get started, Lee, got to put you out there, and I'm sorry, but as you know, we've known each other for many, many years. Is it true? Did you see The Rock and Zac Efron in Baywatch?
I did not. I haven't seen it. It's an excellent question. But I will be voting for The Rock and the Hanks ticket in 2020.
Gotcha.
I'll go ahead and put myself out there.
The Rock and Tom Hanks. I think Rich was talking about this a week or 2 weeks ago.
Yes, mentioned it.
So, Lee, we're going to jump right into it. Why is Colin Kaepernick still not signed with the team? And a follow-up question is, what happened last week with the Seahawks and Kaepernick? There seemed like there was a lot of jockeying. I'll just, is it image or did it come down to money? What's your take on that? Because I know you're inside with all your knowledge, your insider knowledge on everything Seahawks.
Well, yeah, first of all, it really just came down to money for the Seahawks. It definitely was not an image thing. Seattle's not a team with the players they have. With Pete Carroll, as you already mentioned, he would have control of that situation. He also allows the players to be who they want to be. So the Seahawks, it was really just a matter of money. They don't have that much cap space. I think Kaepernick ended up just wanting more money, which makes sense because, you think about it. If you're Kaepernick's agent and you see the teams that need quarterbacks now and that will need quarterbacks once the season starts due to injury, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to sign as a backup role with another team, whether it be Seattle or whoever else, because, you're going to take that step to make more money once the season starts, once quarterbacks start going down. Kaepernick's not a bad quarterback. He's going to fill a need on a team that needs a quarterback who has a chance to make the playoffs. So really it just came down to money as far as Seattle goes. The other aspect is, and you guys know this as well as I do. If Kaepernick was white, he'd already be on the team, probably no matter what his politics are or not. Mm-hmm. He gets made fun of because of him not singing for the national anthem. There's been white people who have not done that. Roseanne Barr, for instance, she made a gesture during the national anthem. Her show did just fine after that. And he gets a bad rap for growing out his hair. So people make a statement as far as the Afro issue. It just comes down to the fact that people see him as a dark-skinned person, and that's why he hasn't been signed with a team. He hasn't signed in Houston because it's a conservative city. He hasn't signed in Denver because it's a purple state. Seattle made sense, and a California team could make sense, but really the teams that need a quarterback are Houston and Denver at this point. And I don't think the Houston fan base, the local citizens there, would probably accept someone who's made the political statements he's made.
Right. So then, on just a semi-related note then, now, again, I am the non-sports guy here, fully and admittedly so. But, for a few years there, we heard, all I remember hearing from the sidelines, Russell Wilson, he was the man, he was awesome, great quarterback, and things have gotten quiet. Has he peaked?
Sorry, the phone is breaking up just a little bit. Could you repeat your question?
No problem. It's regarding Russell Wilson. I don't seem to hear things like I used to about Russell Wilson. Has he peaked?
Has he peaked? As a player, well, if he's peaked, then I hope he maintains that peak for the next 5 or 6 years because he's a really good quarterback. The issue last year was, he suffered some injuries that he had not suffered earlier in his career. He had a pec issue. He had a knee issue, an ankle issue because he played behind a porous offensive line, still played through it, still had a QBR over 90. Still was a really good quarterback. If he's I think last year was not his best year. That doesn't mean he's taken a step back. I think just due to the injuries, he took a step back. He didn't have a consistent running game, especially early in the season. Had some receivers that were hurt. I don't think peaked is the right word. I think that he just it was a step back for him because of the situation last year. He's still the quarterback who's going to have 100 QBR probably going forward. As long as everybody maintains health, he'll be fine. And, he's the leader of the Seahawks offensively. So even if he played like he did last year and that was a peak year, it's still good enough for the Seahawks to make the playoffs and make a deep run.
Okay. So then another Seahawk-related question then. So Warren Moon says that the locker room, they have a splintered locker room in the Seahawks. Is there any merit to this or anything to the story that some members just haven't gotten over losing in Super Bowl 49?
Yeah, I think there are some players, Richard Sherman for one, who have not gotten over that last-minute loss to the New England Patriots in Super Bowl 49. And I kind of hope they don't ever get over it, because why would you be satisfied? Okay, we made it that close. There's a lot of players on the Seahawks, and the NFL in general, but especially on the Seahawks, like Sherman, like Michael Bennett, who play with a lot of pride, who want to take that next step, who want to win every game, who play every down like it's their last down. In fact, Michael Bennett's mentioned that specifically. Is it a splintered locker room? I would think that any locker room made up of 20s and 30-year-olds in any sport, professional sport, where testosterone is running rampant through the locker room as it should, is going to be splintered in some way. Does that mean that the Seahawks, because of, maybe some players don't like Richard or Russell Wilson because they feel envious of his status, of him making all the money, making all the endorsement money? Maybe some people don't like Richard Sherman because of his outspoken attitude. But does that mean they win fewer games? Probably not. Right. I would imagine every NFL locker room is splintered to some degree. You have 52 men. Most of them split up between defense and offense, and it's just how it is. I'm definitely not going to dispute Warren Moon, Hall of Fame quarterback, who's been in the locker room. I'm not discounting what he said, but at the same time, I don't think it really affects the Seahawks winning or losing any football games on the field.
Okay.
Lee, question about your hometown. Well, currently where you reside. Is Tennessee turned upside down because of the Predators?
They are, yeah. Tennessee's the state where I currently have lived in Seattle, but the state where I currently live, it's a great sports state. It's just not enough. I mean, Memphis is like a whole separate state. It doesn't exist. It's like Tennessee orbits around Memphis or vice versa. But, Tennessee's always been welcoming to hockey as far as the Predators go. So, yeah, super excited about that. Me personally, no, I'm a Blackhawks fan, but the state has been open towards the Predators, and they seem to be excited about the Stanley Cup playoffs.
It's pretty cool. Hey, one of my final questions for the evening. Seattle sports fans had a big scare this week. There's a lot of stuff going on at ESPN, and everyone keeps talking about things that are moving around ESPN, like kind of moving away from journalism versus, really gravitating towards the personalities, the yellers, the people who have great catchphrases. The Professor John Clayton went on Twitter and said that he had been laid off by ESPN. And I know the local folks in Seattle, there was a scare. Tell me, are you thankful about learning a lesson about the business behind radio stations, licensing stations versus owning a specific station? What's your thoughts on John Clayton and, Kiro and, the various stations that air out in Seattle?
Yeah, that's a great point you brought up about the radio stations, because even though one is affiliated with ESPN, they're not necessarily owned by ESPN. The local affiliate still has to raise the money for the salaries basically on their own, and they get a little kickback from ESPN. John Clayton, actually, as it turns out, he was one of that first wave of layoffs at ESPN. We just didn't really hear about it. Like Buster Olney got one of those first 100 layoffs of big name people. John Clayton was part of that. It just didn't really come out until last week that he was laid off from ESPN. He had cut back quite a bit on ESPN anyway, as far as appearances. He's really stayed local with a lot of. I mean, he does the show from his house. I don't know if people are aware of that. He doesn't go into a studio every day, but he sits in there and dials in with an ISDN number, and it sounds really good. There's somebody in the studio. He has a producer in the studio, so he's probably in his pajamas while he's doing the show. In fact, he's made statements for that. But yeah, I mean, he is originally, for people who don't know, he's originally from Pennsylvania. Covered the Steelers in the '70s, basically right out of high school. But he's been in the Seattle area since I believe it's '86. He started with Tacoma and has just become part of that, and then ESPN. So it was funny because when I was there when I was living there about 5 years ago, there was a poll as far as top 10 sports personalities in Seattle. He was the number one guy, like beyond any Supersonic, Seahawk. It was John Clayton.
Wow!
Because everybody knows who John Clayton is.
Of course.
So, yeah, exactly. So I'm very thankful that as you pointed out, the radio station is split up from the mothership at ESPN, because he's going to continue doing the show he does both during the week and on the weekend. And yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, Seattle without John Clayton, there'd definitely be a huge void from 10 to 12 Pacific time every day.
Hilly, we want to thank you for coming through, but tell us about the 12th Man Rising radio show, the site, all the above, the connection with Fansided. Let our listeners here know what's happening with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you had Todd on earlier. Hopefully he didn't steal any of the thunder, but Todd is my co-expert at 12th Man Rising. 12th Man Rising is part of Fansided, which is part of Sports Illustrated, which is really owned by Time Magazine. If you check out Fansided, they have an app. They have 12manrising.com is the website for the Seahawks site. All that's tied into Time Magazine. So when you read my stuff, leave that a little bit less than you would someone who's not a hack. But yeah, Fansided is an excellent site. A lot of good sites on there. And yeah, you can check it out at 12th Man Rising. Check me out and Todd out at 12manrising.com. It's a great site. I appreciate being a part of it, and I appreciate being a part of your guys' show, because Late Night Baron is a much better podcast than what I try to do. With Kevin's the great podcast partner I have with Seahawks show at 12th Man Rising. I'm just there to butcher the English language, basically.
Not at all. Not at all.
Oh, man. Well, with that, Lee, this is, hey, we're going to try and have you on again next month and find out as we gear closer towards the NFL season.
Sounds good. I appreciate it. And go Jets, right?
Let's go Giants. Talk to you later, brother.
Thanks for joining us, Lee.
All right, thanks.
And that was Mr. Lee Vowell from 12th Man Rising. Two solid people, two solid guests.
Yes.
A lot of information, a lot of content. But with that, without going any further, you also have a lot of information that you want to share with us. Something that you witnessed last week, the air show.
Myself and about 250,000 other people on Long Island.
Okay.
So for those who don't know, we're in Long Island, New York, and every Memorial Day it's become a tradition where we'll have an air show on Jones Beach. The last few years it's been sponsored by Bethpage Federal Credit Union. They've been the primary sponsor. And so, for those who like anything aviation related, you just want to get to an air show. And every year they've been alternating. Whereas this year we've had the Air Force demonstration team, the Thunderbirds, come out and do a show along with about 10 other aircraft and stunt teams and stunt soloists. And other years it'll be the Navy Blue Angels who will come out.
Okay.
And they're not going full throttle, but some of the things that the stunts that they put on, it's just amazing to see what these guys can do with an aircraft. And, from biplanes to the jets to there's one, I think it's Jack Jack Link's, they have a jet-powered biplane that they put out there, and the guy alternates it between propeller and biplane mode. Just what the show they put on there, it's 2 days. They do it Saturday and Sunday. It's about a 4 or 5 hour show. And, it's on the beach, so you get the cool breeze. The food is out there. You can stand around and watch. You get some great photos. I got some good shots this year. I'll put some up on Late Night Parents for people to see. And it's just a great event. And, again, you've got 250,000 people out there on the beach, on the boardwalks. Everyone is friendly. It's calm. It's peaceful. I've been going to these shows for about 10 years now, and I've never seen an incident.
Gotcha.
It's just something that if you can be there to be a part of it, I'd recommend anyone go out there to see it.
And before we go to our last segment, this is Late Night Parents. Want to give a big shout out to our friends out in Oklahoma City, KVOY in Oklahoma City.
Hello, KVOY.
Thank you for playing the show. So, Rich, with that, there's something that was happening that was reported, I think, last week about skimming that was happening at...
Again.
Out
in Queens, not in Brooklyn.
Out in Queens, out in Brooklyn. But it's getting a little bit more high-tech, yes or no?
I think these guys are just perfecting the crime because it looks like they do two basic things. They will either install a device right over the keypad.
Right.
Which can read your key presses as you put your card in.
So basically an overlay.
Right.
Okay.
Or they'll have a tiny pinhole camera so they can see you type your pin in. They're doing both of these. And in this case, these guys, they have pictures of the, can't call them defendants yet. We'll call them the criminals.
Okay.
The alleged criminals.
Losers.
We don't know. The losers, yes.
The losers.
They have photos of these guys. So, whenever there's a reward that goes out, people tend to step up and turn people in. But, you do have to really watch where you go, where you swipe your card. One of the things I've gotten into a habit of doing, if I'm not at one of my regular locations, I will, before swiping my card, try to pick up the keypad.
Yes.
Try to move it. If it wiggles at all, don't use it.
Right.
Even if there's a cover to cover over your fingers when you're typing in your keys, put your hand over it. So, look at it, press a few extra buttons so they can't read where your fingers may be going.
Right.
You just have to take all the precautions you can because it's so simple for these guys to do this, and it's big business. And, you don't want to get caught out there just having to call your bank and cancel cards and denying transactions. And I've had my card, and it was location, but twice I had my PIN stolen.
Wow.
And, the banks do the right thing. As soon as you report it, they've actually got back to me beforehand both times. Said, did you, process these transactions? I'm like, nope. And they canceled it right away, rolled everything back. Had a new card within a week. It was never an issue with them.
Okay.
And, but you don't want to have to go through it.
No, you never do. You never do. I mean, ugh. It's just like I said. It's if we're not talking about ransomware, something on something that's virtual, then we're talking about something that's physical.
Physical, stealing the keys.
Hey, one last item I wanted to talk about, and I don't know because I know you were out on vacation.
Yes, staycation.
Staycation. I did get a chance to pull up CodeCon, Recode's annual conference. They had, politicians, of course, media CEOs. Of course, they had my boy Bill Simmons on there. And I've got to have my guy EJ Christian on sometime this week, or I got to do a sit down with him. Why? Because Bill Simmons was still talking about ESPN. They didn't renew his contract 2 years ago.
They let him go,
and he's still. That very comment was made. The person who was interviewing him, because Recode is the parent company is Vox Media. Okay. So Bill Simmons just signed a deal with Vox Media.
Okay.
For his podcast and his website and everything else like that. The interviewer said to him, "Yeah, ESPN fired you." He stopped the interview and said, "They did not fire me." And
so what did he say? What did he call it?
He said, "They did not renew my contract."
Okay.
And the person was kind of it was
a 10-minute. It was a moment.
Yeah, it was a moment. It was a 10-minute interview. But the fact of the matter,
he's been released.
He's still talking about ESPN. Still talking about the mistakes they made. Still talking. And I said, oh, my goodness. And I really like reading his work.
Okay.
I like listening to his podcast.
Okay. You're tired of hearing the whining.
I'm tired of hearing the whining. He should be focusing on why his show failed on HBO after 4 months.
Right.
17 episodes. That's what he should be talking about.
Or learning from.
Right. Smart guy. He's doing an Andre the Giant documentary.
That should be interesting.
That's going to be great. Creative mind. Okay. Creative mind. I'm just saying, you got to let certain things go.
Right.
I just believe that.
Well, that was his. I'm guessing here that was his big moment. That was his time to shine.
Yeah, it was.
And it's got to be a huge blow to the ego.
Yeah, totally.
When they say, thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it. They had your podcast and they had your website on the landing page of ESPN.
Right.
That
That's
does,
big.
What, 1 million hits a day?
Right.
To say the least?
Right.
During non-Super Bowl, non-World Series.
Right. Just daily traffic.
Yeah, just daily traffic.
Yeah, that's big.
So other than that, it was the only honorable mention I will say is Hillary Clinton was on CodeCon for an hour.
This was a couple of days ago.
Going in on the Democrats.
Yes.
The DNC.
Heard about it.
The Russians, Trump, and everyone else.
Did you hear what she said about the DNC? I'd be curious to hear what she had to say about them.
She was just talking about their data. She was talking about the data scientists. She was talking about 538.com, Nate Silver, and
So she's just saying they read it wrong.
They read it wrong, but she did take ownership.
Okay.
She did.
Okay.
For the first time since
November
8th, she took ownership. So she also mentioned James Comey. So I don't know, but it was a great conference. A lot of different people were talking about the things that they're doing and what we need to focus on, and some of the stuff that we talk about here. But in the next upcoming weeks, Rich, we're gonna have Mr. Barry Cooper on, who has a co-parenting book. I don't know if he's gonna come in the studio. I think I've been speaking with his PR people. I think he's gonna come in the studio to talk about his co-parenting book.
Okay.
Of course, we're going to talk with Dr. Michele about her book.
Hopefully she's here next week.
Yes. Father's Day is coming up.
I will not be here Father's Day.
You will not be here Father's Day. I don't blame you.
I'll be at Shea Stadium.
Oh, really? Oh, nice. City Field.
City Field. It's always going to be Shea for me. Always. But yes, I'll be at City Field.
Okay, cool.
Father's Day gift from the oldest son.
Nice. He's taking you.
Well, he was going to take me then. He's like, I'm not going to be able to go, so you and Mom go.
Oh, okay, great.
So that'll be nice.
That sounds good. That's going to be a great day. I guess we're close.
That's it. What do you have planned for this week?
Quiet. Just work.
Which should be quiet.
What about you?
The same.
All right.
I'm sure I'll have a couple of busy days. This first days back are always a little run around, but nothing out of the ordinary scheduled.
And Todd just texted me. He said if Lou Ferrigno wasn't there, it would have been a bust. But best ways to get in contact with you.
Late Night Rich on Twitter.
Oh, my goodness. The real Ted Hicks. And we are out.
Have a great week, everyone.